Hey, Marta. Thanks for being on the show.
Hi, Danielle. Thank you so much for inviting me. It's a pleasure.
Oh, it's my pleasure. So, Marta, you are originally from Portugal and lived in Spain, England, and now Japan. But
Exactly.
do you remember the moment that you realized you didn't want to live in Portugal and wanted to move abroad?
Actually, when I was in university, I understood that we had this opportunity to do Erasmus program, and I thought this is amazing opportunity to meet another students from Europe and to live by myself for a couple of months. And I thought it was going to be awesome. And I moved to Spain at that time just for half year. And I must say that it was one of the best things I have done in life. It opened up myself to other ways of thinking, other people, other backgrounds. One of my best friends was actually an Italian guy who lived with immigrants from Uruguay. So we ended up having this experience living with a community of immigrants in Malaga. So I had an experience a little bit different from other students, but it was so rich. And by the time I finished the Erasmus program, and I can tell you that I spent all my traveling back crying because I knew this finished. Yes, like this space and time is finished. And even if I come back to Malaga, it would not ever be the same thing. And at that time, I understood I have to do this again. I have to live abroad again. I have to study abroad again. So I came back to Portugal. I finished my master in psychology. And I had as well this feeling that I cannot have yet a 9-to-6 job. I need to develop myself and travel more. And all of this came with the Erasmus experience.
So your main reason, like to trying to do this Erasmus, which for the listeners that don't know exactly what the Erasmus is, Erasmus is a student exchange program just only for the European countries,
Yes.
if I remember correctly.
Exactly.
And also, I did some research, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's not expensive to do. It's actually covered by the government, and you actually get paid monthly. Was that the case?
To be honest, it was not my case. I think it might change from the countries you live in. I think maybe you have some sort of subsidy, but I really don't remember. I remember just, you know what, Danielle, to try to count all my coins, because I did not have so much money. So I understood like completely that I came from a poor country because the life the Germans were living was not the type of life I was living. So,
but it's not as expensive as for an international student to go and study abroad.
Yes. Like for example, you would not have to pay the university. For example, that would be an added cost, and you really don't.
Okay.
Yes.
So for you at that moment, the main reason to go and explore doing this experience was mainly to try like a different culture, explore a different culture. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah, definitely. It was meeting other type of students, from so many countries and with different backgrounds than mine that were studying different things, and we had in common learning a language and meeting other type of people. So, and as well living by myself for the first time because I was still living with my parents during university.
If someone wants to do an Erasmus, what is the process? Do you have to be like a grade student, or anybody can apply to Erasmus?
Not at all. Anybody can apply. It does not depend on your grades. You might have some troubles with the vacancies. For example, like you want to go to a Malaga university, maybe you just have 3 or 4 vacancies. So, but it's not real. Like you don't need to be a super genius person to do Erasmus, not at all.
Good to know.
No. Actually, yeah. Especially like in my case, I didn't even have to attend classes, which was great. So I didn't have to do any tests or anything. So yeah, it was really a different experience. Yes.
Oh, perfect. I just wanted to point it out because I have like 2 friends that did an Erasmus in Spain, in Madrid. And they did at the same time, but their experience were quite different. Like one came back and she knew that wasn't her life. She knew that she couldn't stay away from her family. And the other one was actually the opposite. It's actually one of the guys that I interviewed previously on the podcast, Fabrizio. He still lives in Madrid.
Wow.
So what was your experience when you came back? Was one or the other one?
No, definitely like with your friends. So I knew I was crying before I left Malaga, then I was crying. I thought this cannot finish here. Why can I live like this forever? Like I need to do this again. I need to experience other people from different countries. I need to learn more. Like my country is like one culture. Like I definitely need to travel more, to see more, to experience more. So when I moved, it was always for personal development and professional development, to grow yourself internally. I think it's such an open-minded experience. So this was definitely the case that I need to do this again. Whether it's studying abroad or living abroad, I knew that I have to do it. I have to do it. So, and I had this after Erasmus, this certainty in my life that I will live abroad.
Because the Erasmus is kind of like a closed window. Once you finish it, you have to go back home, right?
Exactly. And I think that's the hard thing as well, because then you suddenly go back to your country with your same friends and the same things. And you just 6 months ago, you were meeting like people from whatever and doing so many different things that you don't have in your country. And you grow so much. Even with your friends, your relationship changes. A little bit like reverse culture shock. Like you cannot put into words exactly what you experience, because if you tell your friends, they will not understand what type of experience are you talking about. What is this? Okay, yeah, you met people from so many countries, and what's that? And this is so much richer than that. And you grow up so much. And it's like when you go back to Italy and you cannot tell everybody what you did and how you learn and how you grow and how you change. It's so difficult to put into words. And sometimes people are not even like so open to hear it. And it can be a little bit, sad and frustrating at that times. So definitely it was Erasmus that I had this certainty that I need to do this. I need to live abroad.
Okay, so what did you do once you came back to Portugal? Was there a next step in order for you to leave again?
So my next step was finishing up my master's degree in psychology. And I had this feeling that I cannot have a 9-to-6 job and just every day doing the same thing. And I applied to be a flight attendant. And you might imagine, Danielle, I was so criticized by my family and some friends. You did a master's degree in psychology. Why are you flying? Coffee and orange juice, when flight attendant is so much more than that. And I've been to places that I would never have the opportunity to go because I was working with a different type of airline. So I went to the Falkland Island. I had my Christmas with military guys, in the Falkland Islands. I transported pilgrims to Mecca, and all these social skills that you build when you fly, you can always apply them to your work life. So it's not just about orange juice and coffee; it's so much more than that. And you travel to so many places, and again, you have colleagues with completely different backgrounds that you learn with them, and you understand that you don't need to follow what people tell you to do if it does not make sense to you. And for me, at that time, it did not make sense to me to have a 9-to-6 job. And when I look back, I'm so proud of myself for having the courage to do something different despite being so criticized, because again, it built my confidence and it built my social skills to decide to move abroad again. So by that time, I finished to work as a flight attendant because I was exhausted and I had completely different schedules, and I could not sleep during the day and having these naps to boost your energy. And I said, okay, I just need a 9-to-6 job for now. And because of my master's and the experience of flying, then I was able to have a very good job in HR in an airline. And And after, I think it was 4 years, I decided, okay, I cannot grow more here, and I wanted to study as well. I was studying at that time psychology, again, like psychotherapy, and I wanted to go to the Psychoanalytic Institute in London. And I was very lucky that my sister just called me and told me, Marta, you know what? I'm going to have 6 months in London for a little bit of time. I'm being like expatriated to London. And I thought, I was so selfish, Danielle. I told her, oh my God, that is perfect for me. Because I want to go to the institute, and I want to study more, and I can try to find a job because you will be there and you have a place where I can stay. I was super selfish.
Which is totally understandable.
And like, she was so kind. We were helping each other as well. And I managed as well to find a job in London. And actually, it was because of my aviation background again. I was so criticized by this decision of flying, but it was actually what made me have good job in Portugal and being valued abroad. So in London, there was a recruiter that told me, Marta, you have such a nice background in aviation. Why don't you focus your CV, like applications, and for like recruitment companies in aviation. So I was able to focus on my strategy, like, okay, so this is it. I have good experience in HR, good experience in aviation, and I will focus my search. And instead of applying to thousands of jobs, I was way more focused, and in 2 months, I managed to find a job.
You had experience in aviation, which is probably the reason why you decided to take the route to take that job. So you already have an experience of like traveling and moving in different countries. But now you decided to permanently move to another country, because the beginning, when you do the Erasmus, there was a window. You knew exactly, your family and friends knew when you at some point you were coming back. But this point was a little bit different, because you decided to move to another country, move your life to another country. I'd like to know, like, what did your family and friends say, or how did they react when you told them that you didn't want to live in Portugal, you wanted to move to London?
I think they were a bit surprised by the decision, but at the same time, I think they knew already that I wanted to live abroad. So they might not think it was so suddenly, but they understood my decision. They knew, like, I was stuck in a job and that I just wanted more. So I'm not saying that they fully supported me, but they kind of understand my decision. And at the same time, that's the good thing about being the second child, is because they had that experience with my sister, and she was already living abroad. So it was not like something new for them to deal with. It was like, okay, another one is going.
Yeah. And how about you? Because now you were not going to school anymore. Now you were kind of like starting a new life in another country. Were you in any way scared or worried about moving to London?
I think I was more excited than scared. I was way more excited. I thought, okay, what is the worst thing that can happen? Is I don't have a job. Okay, I cannot find a house where to live. I can always, when you have a solid base where you can come back, I think you feel safer. I have my family in Portugal, and I can always come back if something goes very wrong, which was not the case. I actually, working in the UK is so much better comparing to Portugal, because they really...
What's the difference?
They value your work. They say thank you if you stay longer hours. They value your language skills, and it's so much different from Portugal, where you just are supposed to work extra time without people even saying thank you sometimes. And so I felt so much, despite being a different culture, there's some things that actually value more. So it makes us feel more comfortable as well and valued outside. And I remember I was a bit embarrassed by my language skills and my Portuguese accent, and I was so excited to live in London, and I was telling my manager, "Oh, I'm so excited! I can work on my British accent." And he was like, "Why do you want to do that? Like your accent is so nice, and you can express yourself, and you are different than us. Why do you want to be like us? What's the point?" And I know that not everyone thinks like that, but it was so nice for me to be recognized and valued despite my lack of English skills, because you might, people that English is not their language, they probably recognize this. Like, there's so much of the words that you don't learn in school, in English schools, yes? Like British Council will not teach you the slang that you normally will find at work. I remember the first time when I was on a computer and I received an email saying, this person moved to greener pastures. And I'm like, greener pastures. Is this person moving to the countryside? Because I had no idea that greener pastures was like just finding another job. Yes. So these kind of things you don't learn. You learn on the go. And that was really interesting.
You brought up like a good point, like the thing that for English speakers, like our accent, I mean, I don't even know if I have an accent. I think no, I don't feel I have an accent, but people say I do.
Yes, and when you hear yourself.
Exactly. For us, I think it's kind of like a shame. I remember the beginning when I was doing podcast, I was like really listening to my voice, like it sounds so freaking weird. Yes. And it was like I was so kind of ashamed of my accent. Exactly. But for English speaker, that's actually a good quality. It's actually they appreciate our accent. So you brought up like a really, really good point.
Yeah. It was really lovely. It's like, if you think about it, when people go to Portugal and they speak Portuguese, I'm just so incredible, like excited, like, oh my God, you speak so nicely. How do you work with that? How did you learn this? Portuguese is such a difficult language. So I think it's very good for the other person to be valued with an effort to learn another language. Mm.
Oh, absolutely. But I want to go a little bit into the technicality. How did you find the job in London? So, like, because you find the job before going to London, how did you manage that?
Oh, no. So what I did was, when I was in Lisbon, we have a Portuguese expression that means testing the waters, which was sending CVs, seeing if I get some answers. And I understood that people were calling me. But when I said that I was in Portugal, they didn't value that much. They said, so when you move, please contact us again. But I understood that the market was moving, and I had many calls and people that were interested in my CV. So I understood that the market in the UK is incomparable to the Portuguese market. So I had a good feeling about being able to find a job. And I think that's very important. Actually, before moving to Tokyo, I did the same thing. So I contacted many people. I asked many questions. What do you think? Will I be able to find a job or not? Can I work in your company or not? So I think if you test a little bit, if you start having a little bit more information about how the job market works, you start to have a feeling of how you should change your CV, how you should adjust these little things that makes different for you to be successful. So when I moved to London, I already had this feeling, okay, I can do this. This will be possible to find a good job. And the same thing happened in Tokyo. So I had this feeling that, okay, it's going to be very hard because I don't speak Japanese, but it can happen. So I was very positive in that sense, like testing a little bit before going. And I think that's very important.
By testing the water, what do you mean? Because you were reaching out to work agency in London, try to send a CV.
Exactly.
How specifically?
Exactly. So you try to reach out some recruitment companies. You go to job boards, see what kind of jobs they have, see how your experience can be applied or not. you try to find out a little bit more information on how the CVs are presented to you. So, for example, in Portugal at that time, I'm not sure if things changed. So, you put if you're married, if you're not, if you're like if you have kids or not. You put your photo. But in the UK, this is a reason for discrimination. So you should not put in your CV. So just your name, your address, very vaguely, like London, blah blah blah, not in detail, and you don't need to say anything else about yourself. So, in order for you not to be discriminated, so I think that this kind of information is important for you to know what type of CV should you present or not to get more chances, and see what kind of jobs and how the jobs are detailed, and changing your CV according to what they need. And see how if you receive any replies, because if you don't receive any replies, then you may be doing something wrong, and you need to learn more about what can you do. And I did the same thing when I knew like we were coming to Tokyo, and I really wanted to continue to work. It was I would never move abroad if I think I would never find a job, or if I did not have that permission. So I started to connect with people that were living in Japan, working in Japan, some foreigners, asking questions very politely, of course, having information about what kind of job boards they have, where can you put your CV, what type of recruitment agencies, and what type of jobs are they looking for, what type of jobs foreigners have as well in Japan. So I understood more or less, okay, this is going to be very difficult to find a job in Japan because I don't speak Japanese, but it's possible. There is opportunity. So, and I was very lucky that after being here, it was actually a recruiter that found me on LinkedIn, and I had a very good job in Japan. So, for people that want to come to Japan and think, I'll never find a job, it is very difficult to find a job without Japanese skills, but it's possible if you have a very good background, if you're smart enough to adjust to the culture as well.
Okay. And for London, what gave you the confidence that you will find a job?
I think was when I started to receive people interested in my CV and wanting to know more about me. So recruiters are very active in the UK. It's something that we don't have in Portugal. So they call you, and actually they are a very good source of information. And I would ask a lot of questions. Actually, you know what? Can you give me your opinion about my CV? Can you give me opinion about the salary that I'm asking? And I think I was smart in the way of using that information available in order to make myself successful. So, being positive and being smart as well, I think is the way to be successful.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And also, so you decided to move to London. You already have a sister in London, part of the family, so you already have a place to stay.
Yeah.
You had the confidence that you were able to find a job. So they were really excited to get on the plane and go probably, right?
So excited.
So everything sounds perfect. But there's something that we discussed this last time we spoke, that you, at that time, you were in a relationship when you decided to move to London. So you had to end this relationship. So there might be the listeners out there might be in the same situation where they need to decide one or the other, like stay with the partner or follow the dreams and moving abroad. So what made you decide that going to London was the right decision for you?
So I had a long relationship. We were together for 10 years, and he supported me with that decision. He knew that it was something that I wanted to do, and he was supportive in that sense, which was very, very, very good. What happened was that we ended up growing apart because suddenly your life completely changes. You are in a different world with different people, with completely different opportunities, new habits. So many more things are happening in London comparing to Lisbon. And the other person stays in the same place with the same people doing the same things. And we kind of grew up apart. So I can give I mean, I'm not specialist in relationships, but the best advice I was given was from one of my friends that said, you don't need to make a decision because things will change and you will see at that time. So if you are lucky enough to have a partner that says, this is what you want, please, like, go and we will figure it out. I think you really have to do it if this is something that you really want to do it. And then he might ended up going, or you might feel like, this is no longer makes sense. So you don't need to come up with a decision. Let's break up now because I want to live abroad. You can just see how things end or see how things go. Because by the time we finished, it was not so hard because we were already grieving this relationship ending.
Mm-hmm.
So, and to be honest, I think that initial support he gave me was as well very important for me to be able to go abroad feeling confident. So if you break up and suddenly you have this huge relationship that finished and you're going to try something new and it's so stressful, if you have the support of someone, why not? You don't need to break up. You can just see how things go and how things change. I think that was the best advice one of my friends told me. And I'm very grateful because I followed that and I said, okay, we don't need to come up with a decision now. Let's see how things flow. And we ended up growing apart, but it was fine.
Yeah, because like if you're in a relationship that one wants to move abroad and one doesn't, it's hard to find a path that actually matches at some point, right?
For sure. Especially because like my boyfriend at that time, he had a business that he wanted to grow in Portugal. So it's understandable that he did not want to move at that point in life. But for me, that point in life was exactly when I should do it, Danielle. So yeah, we didn't meet and we drove separately in different ways. But okay. I don't regret it at all. Like, at all, Danielle. I don't regret it at all. I ended up like meeting my husband in London and I'm so happy,
Absolutely. I speak as a single person that I had the opportunity when I left Italy to move with someone, but decided to not pursue the route and going on my own, which as you said, like I don't regret it at all because the opportunity that as a single person created, because then you explore the world, you grow your network, you put yourself out there because you have to put yourself. Exactly. Yeah. So that's the difference. I'm going to ask you another question about relationship and moving abroad as a couple later. But now I want to talk about Japan and Tokyo because you mentioned that now, we mentioned at the beginning, but you mentioned it again, then you now live in Japan, Tokyo. How did Japan come up?
So actually my husband's visa was finishing and he had to quickly come up with a solution for his situation. And actually he wanted to move to Germany and then they said, look, we don't have vacancies here in Germany. Would you like to go to Tokyo? And it was very unexpected. I think he never thought like he would live in Tokyo in his life. And I said, why not? Like, why not? And he had an interview here and he said, Marta, this is quite okay. It seems good. People are friendly and it's very clean and very organized. This should be fine. And I said, okay, I've never been to Japan before. And I said, yeah, let's go. It sounds cool. So it was
because for you was just, because even for you was the new opportunity to like learn another culture and explore another very different culture. Because like moving from Portugal to Spain to England, it is different. It's different, but it's not as different as going to Asia, going to Japan.
Oh, definitely. Yes, completely different. A completely different adjustment. Yes.
And last time we spoke, you mentioned that you guys have to get married in order to get to Japan. Why was that?
So basically, for Japan, with my visa, with European visa, you are able just to spend 90 days here in Japan. So it does not allow you to live in Japan. And obviously, if you are here as a tourist, you cannot find a job. You're not supposed to do that. So we understood that to be able to move together, this was a step that we both had to do. We needed to officialize our relationship to be able to move together. So it was very hard because we didn't have time to prepare. When you are in your country with the same person of the same nationality, you can have 1 year to prepare your marriage and blah, 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 and choose your venue. And suddenly you are two people from 2 different countries. You have so many paperwork that you need to figure out what are the right documents, the wrong documents. You need, I don't know, it was so hard. I think it was so stressful. It was the most stressful part on my journey in London, was to get married. It was really, really hard, very stressful.
I mean, I know a few of my friends that got married, and it's usually not an easy process. Usually already pretty stressful. I can't even imagine how stressful it was for you guys.
Yes. Imagine like his visa was finishing. He would not be allowed to be in the UK. He would not be allowed. And then like I had to go to Portugal, try to figure out the best documents. And then they said, no, he needs to come here. And I'm like, no, he cannot come here to Portugal to do this process. So I came up with a paper that was accepted in Belarus. And actually, when we were in Belarus, we were still unsure if we were able to get married. I could make a movie out of these 3 days, that we spent to get married in Belarus. And it was the most stressful thing I have done, like at that time and in my journey on London.
So from the moment that you find out that you have this opportunity to go to Japan, how long do you guys have to get it done?
That's a good question. I think maybe 3-4 months to get everything ready to move abroad.
Because you were living in London. You had a job, probably friends. Your life was there. So you have like 3 or 4 months to plan your wedding and figure out the next move to move your life somewhere else.
Yes, exactly. We were not even living together at that time. We had we were separate rooms, and we suddenly have to move everything for one house to be able to like ship everything to Japan, and to get married very quickly and send the papers here to have the visas to come to Japan. So I was just lucky that because my husband is from Belarus, he's so used to these bureaucracies and these papers and for things to be very hard. Well, for me, everything was new, to go to the UK, I just needed a plane ticket. I didn't need visa. I didn't need anything. And suddenly I have to come up with all these papers to get married, all these papers to have visas. And my husband was like super relaxed. Oh, Marta, yes, it's fine. But we need this paper and we need to take photos and we need this. And he's like, oh, Marta, it's fine.
This is a great example of the difference between man and woman.
Yeah, he was so much more relaxed because to go to the UK, he had such a huge process of documents, and he had to do like tuberculosis exams. Well, for me, it was a plane ticket, just because he was born in Belarus and I was born in Portugal. That's the only difference.
How long you guys were together before we have to decide to get married?
Maybe, I think less than 1 year or 1 year, something like that. Yes. Yeah, it was. Okay. We got married very early. Yes.
Because that was like getting married is a big commitment, a big change. Yeah. Right?
Yes,
what did you have like a second thought that maybe we had to figure out another way to go to Japan, or I don't know, do you have a second thought about getting married so quickly?
That was a very good question, but I think I'm very particular on that question because I never wanted to get married. It was not something that was in my plans, I got married. Like it was, I never really cared about that. But then I understood that, okay, to be together in Japan, we need to do this. And I thought, okay, it's fine. It's not something special. It's so funny because when I got married the day before, Danielle, I was crying so much. I was like, what am I doing with my life? I just met his parents. I met his daughter. I'm going to get married tomorrow. If the translator is going to show up, what am I doing? I was so nervous. And like, my life is changing so much so quickly. And we are really going to do this. And so for someone that, that said, okay, let's get married because this is important. At that time, it was such a hard process, to do it, Danielle, that I never thought it was going to be so hard and so difficult and so stressful. For someone that said, yeah, let's get married because this is what we need to do. So it's a very particular question, yes.
I mean, you met his parents on the day of when you guys got married?
Yes.
So you skipped quite a few steps there.
Exactly. Imagine this, I go for the first time in Belarus, where I will get married and meet his parents, and he has a daughter already. So it was so stressful, Danielle. I cannot explain you. I felt completely, you're doing something crazy, but at the same time, this feels so right that it cannot be wrong. And I'm very into that you need to follow your gut. I'm very into this, follow your instinct, because we are normally right. And it was very stressful, but I'm still married and we are working well, super great. So I think it was, I don't know, I would do it everything all over again, but it was very stressful. I think I mentioned you the first time we talked. So when we were going to Belarus, my husband said, Marta, maybe add some dress in the bag just in case we are able to marry. And I had a red dress in my wardrobe. And okay, I put the red dress in my backpack, a red dress, And I said, okay, maybe we will be able to do this. And then we were able to find a place. They didn't accept our documents, and they were closing. Then another place didn't have the venue. So we really were able to get married last minute, and with someone staring at me saying, "Do you know why you are here? Are you sure? Do you want to do this?" I'm yes, I know why I'm here. This is everything in Russian. Yes, I know why I'm here. I'm not being dragged here. So it was very funny.
Because even your parents and his parents, where did you think? Even your friends, they were saying, Marta, what are you guys doing here?
Yes, I remember I called my parents on a Tuesday, and I told them, hi, mommy, hi, father. You know what? I think I'm going to get married on Saturday. I know it's a little bit, it's a little bit strange and quick, but this is something that I need to do. We are moving to Japan. And I remember my father, okay, Marta, if this is what you need to do, then okay. So, yes, it was very stressful.
Oh, I bet. But I ask you that question because I remember when I moved here to Canada, I was struggling to get my work permit to stay longer in the country. And at the time, I had a girlfriend. And we're talking with immigration advisors, and multiple immigration advisors gave us the same answer, the same kind of advice. Guys, you need to get married. Just it's the easiest way to stay for you Daniel to stay in the country if you guys getting married. And when I heard this advice multiple times, I will start thinking about my friends and family, what are they gonna think about just me getting married just to stay in the country. Is not. I mean, a lot of people romanticize the fact that you're getting married for love, blah blah blah. For me, I think we had the same conversation last time. That for me, getting married is mostly a contract. But for many people, you're getting married for love, all that kind of things, which I understand, but that's not me. So that's why I was asking that question, because at that time I felt like what other people would think of me getting married for getting a visa.
I understand that question, but at the same time, how can I say this? You're getting married for you to be able to move abroad and stay together. So that is about love at the end. It's for you to be able to be together. And because you are getting married, because you love each other and want to be able to be together. So it's not just about the contract. Yes, it's at least it was not the reason I have done it. I had to do it, but I did it because I wanted to stay with the person that I love in the same country. So even if you are forced to do it, it does not take the love out of it. Actually, it adds up, because for me, it was something that it was not in my plans, and suddenly I had to deal with that. And I'm doing it because I love him so much and I want to be together.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it makes absolutely sense from like our point of view as immigrants, that to be together or to do certain things.
Yes. Like,
that's one of the paths we have to take.
Yeah, I think you. So yes, I think. But you were very brave because you managed to stay in Canada without getting married, or maybe you. What happened to you, Daniel? I think you were unsure, or you.
I mean, I think we were together for less than a year at that point. So for me, I thought, like, you know what, there must be another way. There must be another way to do this, because we could have. If that didn't work out, we could have moved somewhere else. She had a passport to. She's from Canada. She has a passport to move to Europe. So we could find another way to stay together. So that wasn't. I didn't want to get married. I didn't want that commitment at that point in the relationship. I'm glad we didn't go down that road.
Yes.
Because after that we broke up after a while. But so I'm glad. I'm glad.
But you didn't do it. Yes, exactly. You know, like that's it. There's no right answer, because it really depends on you. But you follow your instinct that was saying, this is not it. Yes, and I follow mine that was saying, this is it. Like, even if it's super crazy. And so I think at the end it's completely different situations. But we followed this instinct that tells us this is the right thing or this is not the right thing. So, yeah.
Absolutely. And now we're going back to the question that we mentioned earlier, like a moving as a single that you did when you went to London, and now you moved to Japan as a couple. What are the difference that you find? Like, is it easier to move as a couple or as a single? What's the difference?
That's a very good question. I think when you're single, you just do things by yourself, yes? Like, you organize whatever you want in your own way. And suddenly when you are a couple, you know that all these little annoyances that we have when you move together, I had them in Japan. So suddenly I'm living together for the first time with my husband and in a different country. So it was very stressful. We had to sort of organize ourselves together for everything to work out. But because we were doing that together, actually, I think it makes us stronger, because he suddenly had to start work, like, a lot. And I was the one solving everything, you know, all the bills, all the bureaucracies. I was the one dealing with all these things. Or I was the one going shopping for whatever was. In Japan, you rent the houses with 0 things inside. So you have to buy everything. So I was the one, like, going to the stores, talking with people, buying our basic needs, you know, basic, Daniela, because the house was empty. So you see, like, one person is doing some things, the other person is doing another things, to be able to live together and for everything to be successful. So I think at the end it makes us more united, because you are working for the same goal, and it's so stressful these first few months living abroad. So I think maybe moving to Japan alone. It would be a completely different experience. You just, how can I say this? Even now, Danielle, I think you cannot be abroad just for you or just for your husband or just for your kids. It kind of has to have a big purpose for all the family working together. It has to make sense for me. I need to be happy with my life and the things I'm doing in my career. He needs to be happy with the things that he's doing, with his hobbies, and it needs to make sense to our child. So I think we have to come up with solutions very quickly for everything to work and to go smoothly, and for us to be happy. So you very quickly learn to work as a team.
Actually, like, you mentioned challenges about moving to Japan. I mean, I guess the main challenge is the culture shock. could be one of them, right? The language barrier. What other challenges do you have to overcome in terms of like moving to Japan and the culture of Japan?
I think the biggest challenge that I had to face here in Japan was not culture shock, was not adaptation, was not job challenges. The biggest challenge I had in Japan was to be a mother. And it was really a life-changing experience, as I think all the parents will tell you that it changes us so much. But for me, it was in ways that I was not expecting. And I understood how lonely we were when I had a son, and how we did not have the proper support system. And that was the biggest challenge. And for example, just how can I say this? I ended up thinking like, I'm getting crazy. What is happening to me? And I had to build my support system by myself. Like, okay, where do I need help? What do I need to make me feel better? And I wanted to come back to work because I think that would be good for me as well, to speak with adults and to start getting my life back on track. And I had a babysitter coming to my place to be a little bit with my son, to play with him while I was trying to work from home. I started to have mommy and baby classes so I could speak with other mothers, and again, being able to have it to be with teachers and to ask questions and just venting about your experience abroad and having a kid abroad. And this African proverb that says you need a village to raise a child. And I completely understand that now, because I had to build all these sources of help around me, that it was because I was able to build that support system that I ended up feeling better and getting my life on track and preparing me to be more independent and having my life back again, like my hobbies, my career. And when you have a baby in your country, everything is more or less the same. You have your parents, you have family coming, you have your friends that want to have kids or already have kids, and you can talk with so much more people around you, and you have your doctors that speak your own language. And suddenly you are in Japan. I almost just arrived here, so I barely had any friends. I just started to work, and I didn't have anybody to speak about what my daily crisis in Japan and being a new mother. And I started to build these little helps, like speaking with a therapist, speaking with nurses, speaking with doctor, going to mommy and baby classes, having a babysitter, asking for help to clean the house. And now I understand how important it is, all of this support around you for you to feel good. And that was my biggest challenge, was to become a mother, definitely.
I have friends, like many friends now, they had a baby, and just becoming a mother, going through pregnancy, giving birth, and then raising a child it's already very challenging. Let's call it job.
Exactly.
It's very, very challenging, right? Yeah. But for you, you are in a country where you don't know the healthcare system. You don't know
exactly.
Because when you're home, exactly. You're surrounded by the people that either can help you or you already know the system. You grew up there. You know that to certain things you have to go see the doctor. You might have a family doctor. All of these things. Exactly. But when you are abroad, especially in your case, that Japan, probably the whole system, everything works is very much different from the European system. And the language barrier, I can't even imagine what it would be for you to going through all of that process.
Yeah, so I remember when my doctor spoke English, and he said, okay, so now you are pregnant, you need to go here, and I would go there, take care of the papers. And I remember I have a huge pile of papers with cute cartoons of mothers taking care of babies, and I'm all in Japanese, and I was like, okay, this is probably very, very useful, but not for me. and or being in the hospital, and in the hospital the nurses didn't speak Japanese, so I had to translate or just say pain, And then it was like, oh, pain, and then medication, So it adds up, the stress of being a mother. It really adds up.
Even the worries, the thing that you can't communicate, you don't know if they understand what you're saying. Maybe they treated the thing properly because they understand what you're saying. There's so many things that you don't know unless you are into the process.
Exactly.
I'm saying that because I recently went to the hospital because I had appendicitis. Even that, I had the similar thing, exactly the same thing in New Zealand, appendicitis again. Mm-hmm. And when I was in New Zealand, the cure with antibiotics. This time they have to go to surgery. But in both cases, first of all, healthcare, going to the hospital can be very expensive if it's not covered. Luckily for me, in New Zealand, I had 2 years visa, so that was covering. That means the government was taking care of the expenses. Here in Canada, there's a kind of like a public healthcare system so I didn't have to pay anything for that. But in some circumstances, you have to keep that in consideration that going to hospital is very expensive. I'll give you an example. When I moved here the first time in Canada, I was like feeling very sick. My girlfriend took me to the emergency room to go and see the doctor. Because at the time I didn't have a work visa, so I wasn't allowed to have a public healthcare system in Canada. Just to see the doctor, just going through the emergency room was over $1,000 just to go through the emergency room. I didn't even see the doctor at that point, so I don't even know how much would it be to see a doctor. Imagine. Yes, so I asked how much would it be to see a doctor. They couldn't give me the answer. So you have to, like, those are the things that are maybe not many people know when they're moving abroad, and things you have to keep in consideration, especially in your situation. Sure. A situation like yours, or when you are a couple, that these things can happen. You need to know if it's like the visa you got can cover it. If you have a health insurance, does that cover it? So things you need to keep in consideration. Just that could be very challenging and probably could be expensive even process to go through. Yes. What was your experience in Japan?
Yeah, so I think Japan has a good thing that everything is, how can I say this? You know always what to expect, always, in every situation. So by the time I got pregnant, the doctor already told me where could I find the tickets to have health insurance coverage. He explained me that some appointments would not be covered, and as well I already had the price of giving birth, like with a C-section or not C-section, and it was a huge amount of money, Danielle. But at the same time, we knew, already in advance, so we knew we had to put this money until that date to be able to pay for everything. So I think the good thing about Japan is that it's really no surprise. They explain you the whole process, and giving birth is this. If you have a C-section, then is that, and what is covered or not. And so by the time we finished and were coming home, we knew the exact amount we had to pay, and it was very stressful. Yeah, that was very stressful. Yeah.
Do you feel confident, comfortable sharing those numbers with the listeners?
Oh, I think it was 1 million yen, to be honest. Because I'm not sure if it was 1 million yen. I think it was 500,000 yen. 500,000 yen.
It's almost like a $9,000 for 10,000 yen, 1 million yen. So just for the listeners to know, that's a lot. That's a lot of money.
So yeah, it's a huge amount of money. It's like our little treasure. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So you guys didn't have international health insurance or anything like that?
No. So when you have a work permit, so it means that the company is taking care of that. So it's covered. Mm.
Oh, okay.
So for example, I came with a dependent visa. So it means that if something happened to me, if I need a doctor, I have a health insurance that I can use. So it's a percentage that will be covered. You still have to pay, but some percentage will always be covered. The good thing about Japan and kids is that you don't need to pay anything to go to pediatricians or to have vaccinations. So it's really, really good in that sense. Every time I go to the doctor, or if I think he's coughing and I want to make sure he's good, I don't need anything. We go by bicycle, and the doctor checks him, and don't need to pay for pills, don't need to pay for medication. That's really, really good. In Portugal, it does not work like that.
I can imagine like other people being in the same situation, knowing the amount of money maybe you have to pay to go to the hospital and give you birth. The challenges that you have to go through for the healthcare, the language barrier, and then growing, raising a child without the support of the family. Was at any point you guys thought, you know what, maybe we should go back to Portugal, back to Belarus, or back to Europe at some point?
To be honest, no. I know that many people think... Actually, I had two friends. One got pregnant and said, this is it, I'm going back to my country. Another one had a kid and said, this is too much, I'm going back to my country. But for me, it never made sense, because we had a house, we had jobs. Like, this is our life. My life is here. Why am I moving just because I have a kid? I should be able to have a kid where I am with my husband. So it never crossed my mind to go back. But it was very hard, and I almost got crazy, and I asked for help, and when people ask me what one of the advices that you give is, ask for help, like, as soon as possible. Don't be afraid. If you don't feel well, ask for help, because a professional will always be able to help you, not your friends, not your family, especially because friends and family, they have their own worries and their own motivations, and that they project on you. It's better if you do this. No, that's better for you, not for me. Mm-hmm. So you need to separate like their own motivations and their own fears from your fears and your motivations. And for me, what was very clear that I'm here, I have a job here, I love to live here. And this is very difficult, but I mean, people have given birth through centuries and they somehow manage. I have to manage, I have to manage it as well, yes? And yeah, suddenly I started to understand, okay, let's ask for help little by little. I spoke with a therapist and it was wonderful, Daniel, someone telling you, Marta, what you're passing is absolutely normal. You need to be able to rest, go back to your life, and you'll feel better very soon. And so I think that's the best advice I can give you. Someone is thinking about this is too much, or I don't know what is happening to me. Just ask for professional help, because you'll feel much better after just speaking with the person for 15 minutes.
And on the same note, imagine that you have to go into the same situation, you have to give birth in another country. Let's say you move again. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. What did you learn from your first experience and that you will now do differently? Or what would you do now?
I think I would prepare that earlier on, Daniel, for example, I would search for where do young mothers meet with their kids? What are they doing? Or fathers? What are new couples with the babies doing with their babies, like to be together? And
why is that important?
Because when you have a son, a newborn, you spend a lot of time alone, and you're very tired, and you think this is just happening to me, and I'm not doing something good, or you feel very insecure, especially I think with the first one. So if you have another mother saying, "Oh my God, my baby cry all the night, I couldn't get any sleep," and you think, okay, this is not just me, and it happens to every mother, and all of us are insecure, all of us have this more or less the same troubles, and you feel immediately connected. Even if you are in a different country, the struggles that mothers have are usually the same. So I think I would definitely have this support system more in place. Not just after 6 months. No, let's know already what new mothers are doing. Where are they going? Where are they meeting? Do they have a proper care facility for new mothers to be able to find each other and meeting with the babies? What kind of help there is for you what kind of help the government provides you? Because there are many things that we don't know because we are foreigners. and we don't know even that they exist, and you learn after, and then you think, oh, that would be very useful when I need
Oh
it.
yeah,
Yes, but because
absolutely. Yeah.
at that time you just have so many things that you don't even think of that is possible.
Aside becoming a mother, was your career? Because I remember you were saying that when you moved to Japan, you had some similar career in aviation, right? But then kind of went downhill after the COVID hit.
For sure,
There's
yes.
like there was a big, like, I mean, COVID hit. Nobody was traveling. All the flights were down. Like, how did you? There was like a big change as well. Like, how did you manage that change? How COVID changed your life?
Yes, a very important question, and I think many people from aviation that will hear this will probably feel the same. It was a very sad time. So Japan started to close the borders, so no foreigners were coming in. They canceled all the training for pilots. They canceled contracts. They canceled flights. So it was a very sad time, to work in aviation at that time. And my job suddenly was not making sense because I was responsible for bringing pilots to Japan and to have the interviews and assessments. And suddenly I could not do anything. And, they finished my contract because I was not able to work. And when I finished with a sense of a little bit, what sad times are we living in? And then at the same time, this opens the door for better things as well. Like, what do I really want to do? And I can change my career at this point in life. And because I always worked in aviation, but I always study aside psychotherapy. So I went to study coaching, and then I started to read even more about cultural shock and identity adaptation processes. And I thought, oh, this is really great, and I want to learn more about this, and I want to help people and help foreigners and immigrants, because I think pandemic hit a lot of immigrants because you suddenly are not able to go back to your country. You can connect the way you usually connect, which is during holidays and summer vacations. And I thought, I'm going to support immigrants, and I want to be able to inspire as well people that want to move abroad, that they can still do it. So I changed my career in that sense. I'm very happy that I did this move. So, one door closes and you work for another door to open, basically.
You're a career coach that helps other immigrants, and I just want to help the listeners. They're moving abroad, maybe they are already abroad, and I would just like pick your brain here. Like, in your career as an expat coach, you must have helped many clients overcoming challenges and problems, right? So now imagine that you could make a pill. Like, this is like an imaginary, right? So now imagine you can make like a pill that will solve one challenge or problem for your clients. Something you could prescribe to your clients, right? So what would the pill do?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question, Daniel. I think that could be a pill that would make us more self-aware, about what are we doing that is influencing the situations we are in, and emotional intelligence as well that we are not using. I think that would be the pill. It would be self-awareness pill that might change everything about your experience abroad. If you know a little bit more about exactly what are you doing that is not really helping you. So that would be a big change, and that I would prescribe that. I'll take a little bit of self-awareness.
Why is okay, so imagine you get this pill, somebody gains self-aware. What self-aware can actually cure, will actually help you to overcome?
Because it will help you deal with the adaptation part of living abroad. It will help you navigate as well cultural shock, because cultural shock is much more than food, the way people dress, the way people walk, is actually our cultural lenses that we have and that we are not aware of them. So, for example, I can give you a practical situation. I went to the doctor with my son, and he was running around, and the nurse came to me and he said, "Oh, is your son always so genki?" Genki meaning energetic and healthy. And I immediately told her, "I'm so sorry. I will ask him to go to the kids' corner to play." And she said, "Oh, yes, that would be much better. Thank you." So the exact language that she used to me was, "Is your son always so energetic?" But because of the situation, I understood what she means is, "Can you please stop your son from jumping around?" So, imagine if I was a foreigner that just been in Japan for a short period of time and have no awareness of how we speak. Yes, if our type of communication is more direct or more indirect, so another father or mother could have said, "Oh, yes, you have no idea. My son is always so energetic and it's so difficult for him to calm down, and blah, blah, blah." And then it would not change the behavior of the kid because at the end he was not doing anything wrong. And maybe this Japanese nurse would think, "Oh my God, how rude. Like she didn't stop the behavior of the kid." And I told her to stop. But she told me in her way. That is not my way of telling. Like in Portugal, someone would tell you, "Could you please tell your son to stop because it's not correct or something." So the way people speak in Japan is different than in Portugal. They is what we call high context. So you need to read the meaning behind the words. You need to be able to read the atmosphere to understand what is really going on. So many times when people don't understand or you feel, "Oh, this person was rude," or "I'm being discriminated," it actually comes from a cultural shock point of view that you are not aware that is happening. And you cannot talk about this because these are unconscious processes. So I started to study more about cross-cultural communication and cultural shock exactly because of these deep things that are happening. So imagine if you know Japanese very well. Yes, you have a lot of language skills and you speak perfectly Japanese. And you come in Japan and you might not fully understand still what just happened. Why this person is treating me like this. Because they have all this background of cultural that you don't learn in school. And and it's difficult to express because they don't even know, because they grow up here and they learn that is how it works. So I think a self-awareness skill, as I mentioned, is learning about the culture where you're from, that we are not aware of it, and seeing how we are interpreting the situation that actually might not be exactly as we think it is. And that would be very, very helpful.
Okay, because my way of interpretation of self-awareness in the circumstances of being an immigrant is different. I want to hear your opinion. Because for me, a self-awareness could be, I don't know, I go to the supermarket, for example, and I think I spoke to in another episode about going to the supermarket and feel not angry, but frustrated by the fact that the supermarket outside of Italy are different. The way the aisles are different, where you put the products are different, the kind of products are different. So there's a frustration.
Yes.
I remember being frustrated and then kind of being in a way judgmental against the new culture just because they were doing things differently. So for me, that would be self-awareness, being Daniel, you're being judgmental towards this culture without a real reason. There's something behind. So for me, that would be self-awareness would be more why I'm acting this way.
For sure, yeah, exactly. It's having enough emotional intelligence to think about why I'm so frustrated with this situation. You're frustrated because this is completely different from your usual things. And it used to be so easy to shop, and suddenly is a challenge. And
Absolutely.
so of course it annoys us. Of course it gets us tired. And self-awareness is exactly that. Is you are aware of, you used to do things this way, and of course you get annoyed and frustrated, and this is part of the process of adaptation. And a lot of people give up in this phase of annoyance and frustration, and they don't understand that it is really part of the process, and you just have to go through it, just go through it, and you will understand that it's part of your adaptation process, and it will go away. Of course, it might not go away always, but you will understand that it's because you are used to things working in this way, and they no longer make sense, and suddenly you have to grow skills and grow competencies that you did not have to, and just have to deal with these things that are so simple, which is shopping, and comes up being so stressful. And self-awareness is exactly that as well, Danielle, is to understand that there's nothing wrong, is cultural shock going on, and you just have to be aware that this will go away, and everybody passes through it, and it could be helpful to reframe the situation and to understand that there's nothing wrong with you.
Absolutely. And Marta, now that you lived abroad for quite a few years, you lived in Spain, you lived in London, UK, you live now in Japan, and all the challenges you went through, do you have any regrets about leaving your country?
Oh, no, for 1 second. Not for 1 second. Yeah, not at all. Yeah.
So for you personally, what's the best thing about immigrating? What's the biggest upside about immigrating, moving abroad?
The best thing about living abroad is exactly to find differences from your culture. So the things you take for granted in your country are not granted in another country, and things were completely different. And despite being frustrating and annoying sometimes, when you immigrate, you actually start valuing that difference, and you grow with that richness of the new culture. So I think that is the best thing, is to be able to grow yourself personally and professionally as well in a different culture, definitely having this richness.
And for the listener that wants to move to Japan, what are the top 3 reasons to move to Japan you would like to give to the listeners?
I think the 3 best reasons to move to Japan would be safety. So it's a very safe country. So just to give you an idea, I go running at night without feeling threatened, without thinking about I'll be at risk or something, zero. I have no concerns at all. People book their tables at a restaurant with a mobile phone on the table. This cannot happen in Europe. You just lose your mobile phone after 3 seconds. So The safety of the country is really amazing. That's one reason. Another reason, it would be for the culture. Japan has this incredible culture that so much to learn. The whole history, everything is so rich. So if you are passionate about Japan, you should definitely come here. But even if you're not in love with Japanese culture, I think you will fall in love once you're here. And another thing is the beauty of the country. It's just so beautiful, and you can travel a lot, and it has amazing islands, amazing mountains. You can hike, you can do snorkeling, you can ski. So I think these are the 3 main reasons to live in Japan.
Oh, absolutely. I will add even food. But I think the culture around food in Japan. I mean, coming to Europe, we are very similar. But for me, I've been living in New Zealand. I mean, you in London, there's not the same kind of culture. Then you move to Japan. Everywhere you go, I think it's very similar to Italy. That everywhere you go, it's about food. There's so much culture around food, right?
Oh, Daniel, you have no idea. If I told my colleagues, this weekend we went here, and just 1 hour by train somewhere, the first question my Japanese colleagues would ask me is, did you try this? Or special tofu, or special soba, or special noodles, or special dessert. There's always something special about food in that place. And that's very fun, yes.
I remember when I went to Japan, I found this very similar thing, very similar culture around food that was Italy.
Yes, yes, you are absolutely right. It's all about food. Like everywhere you go is always like, okay, you need to try this. Even if it's just noodles, that you have noodles here in Tokyo as well. But for some reason, there is much better.
Let's stop talking about food, otherwise I start getting angry here. But you mentioned even the beauty. I remember watching this like a TV show on Amazon Prime with James May. I think it was James May around Japan or something like that. So he like a travel from the north of Japan to south. And the difference of landscape is so different, which is I wasn't expecting of Japan, like a nice, sandy, almost tropical beaches to like a very remote areas with like snow. It's such a beautiful, gorgeous country.
Yes, it is. Yeah, absolutely right.
But one of the things that I've discussed on the podcast before about Japan is the problem that you can't be a Japanese citizen. So you kind of need to be prepared that at some point in life, you have to leave Japan. You can never be a Japanese person, a Japanese citizen.
Yes.
What's your experience? How you guys are navigating through this thing that you know is coming?
Yeah, so that's a good point, is that even if you're very happy in Japan and you feel integrated and you have friends and a job, you sort of not fully into society. You cannot vote. You will not have a passport. So I think this is something that we have in mind, especially with a kid, because we know that even if he goes to a Japanese kindergarten or Japanese preschool and elementary school, he will be so different from other kids. And there's nothing wrong about being different, but we know that I don't think he'll be ever fully integrated. So this is something that we have in mind. And at the same time, our plan was never to be here forever. So we intend to come back to Europe maybe in the next few years. And so it's not something that would bother us, but it's definitely something that we know this is it, and that's how it works. You have to accept it.
Which can be like a kind of challenging situation to be in, because you have your life, you're building a life in another country, you build like friendship and all connection and all of the things, and it's kind of like it's kind of sad that you know that's gonna be over at some point.
I understand. Yeah, it is. It is a little bit sad to think that we cannot live here permanently, but I think our idea was never to settle here permanently, and we have grandparents as well, especially now with coronavirus, missing us very much, and having to see our son growing up, but with Google Photos, and over Skype. So I think there's a negative side because we have to move abroad, but at the same time we might have the opportunity to move closer to family and from friends. So yes, I think it's the good and the bad. Yeah, always come together.
Yeah, there's some sort of silver lining going back to Europe.
Exactly.
Do you have any other particular advice you'd like to give to the listeners that want to either move to Japan or moving abroad?
Oh, yes. From all our discussion, I mean, if moving abroad is something that you want to do it, you have to do it. You need to follow your heart. You need to go with your gut, and don't let life pass you by. Like, don't let life pass you by if this is something that you really want to do. And as well, there are people like me that help people make that step. And as well, if you are abroad and all the stresses that every family has, or at a family or personal or at work, the problems have huger impact when we are abroad, exactly because we usually don't have the support system. So if you're going through something, you ask for help. Like, don't hesitate to ask for help, to call someone, just to talk about, to a professional, I mean. to talk about your problems, what is going on, what the thoughts you're having, and you want to express yourself, and you want to see, is this normal? I'm thinking about going back, but I don't really want to go back to my country. What's going on here, and all these cultural challenges that you may be facing abroad, identity challenges. You just ask for help. Like, don't hesitate to ask for help, because it can have can make a huge difference between having a positive experience and continue with your immigration, or having a dramatic experience abroad and giving up when you should not give up if this is something that you really want to do. So yeah, asking for help, definitely.
Which I can tell, like, I can speak from personal experience. Asking for help, it's really hard sometimes. So it's not an easy things to do for many people, at least not for me.
Yeah, no, definitely.
So
yeah, definitely. We have this, like, asking for help is like admitting that I have a problem. Well, yeah, we all have problems. Let's solve them together. And actually, it was one of the things that I have done when I called the nurse and I said, okay, I'm going crazy here. This is normal, when I had my son. And she said, I'm so glad you called, Marta. I'm so happy that you called, And I felt, oh, wow, this is really normal. And I did something different from other mothers that was asking for help. And yeah, it was really great.
I think this is a good point that we can wrap this up. If the listener wants to reach out to you because maybe they relate with your story, or maybe they want to work with you as a coach, where people can find you? So
yeah, I have a lot of content about immigration and cultural shock on IG. Marta Castro Expat Coaching, and I have as well my website, martacastroexpat.com, or just email me on marta@martacastroexpat.com. Yeah, I'm here.
Perfect. And as usual, all the links and everything will be in the show notes for people, so they can reach out to you more easily. So thank you so much, Marta, for sharing your story and your experience on our podcast. Really, really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you, Daniel.